he himself is disconnected from his body and his emotions. He's living in like the left hemisphere of his mind.
And many people start off with a demo account, of course. And I always say that the demo account is like a rifle range. You'd be hitting the target, no problems. The question is, could you still hit the target if some other sword was shooting back at you?
You aren't a brain in a body. You know, your brain is really distributed through your whole body.
What if we decided to try to approach trading with logic rather than emotion? What do you think the result would be? It is a lot harder than it sounds, but it is possible. Think about it like this. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it, right? This is a part of your job, if you take trading serious enough anyway. Now let me assure you, it is absolutely possible to trade based on logic rather than emotion. You simply need to train your brain to be able to do so. Now I continuously research this concept, so join me as I explain to you what it is I understand and challenge you to change your perspective from an emotional to a logical one. In my opinion, using logic gives much better results. Now, you know the drill? Like, subscribe, and comment if you agree with what I'm saying. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the difference between logic and emotion. Whereas logic is the language of the conscious mind, emotion is the language of the unconscious mind. We know that emotions are reactions to perceived and imagined stimuli, not based on logic, but on one's own personal experiences. Emotions often outweigh our logic. The same is true for our trading. We know that we tend to make decisions based on how we feel about what we see, rather than diving deeper and evaluating the visual stimuli created from the chart. Now here's an interesting question for you. Which do you think is more powerful, logic or emotion? In truth, emotions drive more than 80% of our decision making, while logic makes up the rest. Think about this. The statistic says that around 90% of traders lose 90% of their money within 90 days. This also suggests that about 90% of traders are emotional traders. Do you see the link? Trade emotional and lose. Before we proceed with the video, I have one other question for you. Do you agree that losing a trade feels worse than winning one feels good? If your answer to this question is a resounding yes, then I highly advise you watch this entire video. Google's definition of logic is a particular system or codification of the principles of proof and inference. What this says is that we must have data or evidence in order to process things clearer. Only then can you make decisions. We approach things from a perspective of gathering enough information so that we can use that data to then make decisions. Rather than becoming attached to the outcome, look for the evidence and simply let the outcome play out. The reality is, no one knows what the outcome will be. So detach yourself from it and free your mental capacity for more important things, like actually analyzing the market. Always remember, expectation is the root cause of all disappointment. Google's definition of emotion is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. Now, an emotional response is a conscious mental reaction, such as anger or fear, subjectively experienced as a strong feeling usually directed towards a specific object and typically accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. We've all been there. You lose a trade and instantly want to punch something, or maybe you even let out a verbal profanity or two. I've even heard traders say that they threw their phone in anger. The reality is that you're succumbing to your emotions, and it is likely that your logical mind will fall by the wayside due to this. Most traders trade from the perspective of how they feel about what they see. It's almost like they have faith in their emotions rather than pure data. Do you know what faith is? Belief without evidence. Let that sink in. So you've lost the trade. No biggie, right? That would be the optimal scenario. Instead, you decide to try to take revenge on the market, knowing fully well that this isn't going to hurt the market in any way. You aren't thinking clearly, and you will likely lose again. And the market literally doesn't give a shit about what you do. This is a lack of logic at its core. You're literally placing a trade just because you feel like you're getting revenge on the market. The market is an inanimate object. It doesn't feel the hate you have for it at this point. My advice is to put down your mobile device or walk away from your computer so you can detach completely. This is the only way to actually effectively recover because your emotions are in control at this point. Let logic return before looking for another trade. FOMO is the fear of missing out. Similar to revenge trading, but not necessarily the same. You know the feeling where you feel like you're late for that new hot trend that everyone was participating in? This is FOMO. You will find yourself trying to get in too late, and only because you feel like you've missed out on something good. The reality is, by the time you get into the trade, it is too late. It's over. Likewise, when it comes to trading, I know you've said, I need to get into this trade because we will miss out on these potential profits. The key word here is potential. Potential meaning that it is unrealized profits. We don't know what it's actually going to do, and the sooner you realize this, the better. The sooner you acknowledge the fact that you don't know what the market is going to do and where it is going to go, the better it is for you because you're no longer trading from a place of emotion. This is logic. Any trader who tells you that they know what the market is going to do is full of shit. Nobody knows. And if they claim that they know, ask them if they're insider trading. Call their bluff. They don't know. The reality is that nobody knows besides the person who's controlling the market. We can only make assumptions based on the data that we've gathered. How do you get this data? By actually using logic and not emotion. Most traders probably never heard about fogey. And if you do know about it, you probably learned about it from me. Fogey is the fear of getting in. You are afraid of getting in due to emotions. Fear is an emotion which is derived from a lack of experience or understanding. If we think about anything we are afraid of, it's likely because we don't quite understand it or have experience dealing with it. This is why you always hear that you need to face your fears. It is to build up experience and exposure to that thing. Over time, the fear will slowly subside and disappear. So you don't have a lot of experience with actually getting into the trades. Yeah, you will naturally be afraid. That's fine. Where it gets dangerous is when you do have experience, but you have experience doing the wrong thing, which isn't really helpful. My advice is to seek out help on this matter and learn the right way, or at least a better way to approach entries. The last thing you want is to be able to properly analyze an asset and be afraid to trust your own analysis. It hurts. If you use enough logic and you've gathered enough data, it should refute any feelings you have of fear, because you know that the data suggests that this setup has worked more times than it hasn't. That's enough for me to take the trade. The fear of staying in. Another one that you probably haven't heard of. Point of view. You get into a trade, again, after losing 3, 4, or 5 trades in a row. You're down a ridiculous amount of pips and it's frustrating you. This trade seems to have not stopped you out as of yet. And you let out a giant sigh of relief as your previous fate hasn't occurred again. The trade goes about 35 pips in your favor, and you look at the market structure. Emotions step in, and you feel as though it's going to turn around. So you close it at 35 pips profit. Only to realize that after you've closed it, that trade went an additional 150 pips on top of your 35 pips. This trade could have profited over 185 pips for you, recovering everything you've lost and then some. Most traders are so battered from losing trades all of the time, again and again, these losing trades. I can understand why you'd be afraid. You don't have enough data. In my opinion, most traders do this. They don't like to hold their winners, but love to hold their losers. My advice is to make sure you understand the possible targets of your trades before trying to get in. Let's think of a scenario. Let's paint a picture of war. It's not a nice image, but it's the harsh reality. Wars happen. Now I want you to think about the people fighting in these wars. Think about the commanders, the soldiers, the generals, who all have to strategize. Do you think they are doing so from an emotional perspective? No. They can't, because lives are at stake. They must be rational and logical in their thinking. Gather intel on your enemy before you begin to strategize. If you just rush in without thinking, your days are numbered. In this emotionally charged state, you can't properly form good tactics to fight and ultimately defeat your enemy. Your job as a trader is to gather data and use that data to then formulate a viable strategy that you can then place good high probability trades. Let's clarify that we don't actually know where the market is going to go, but you should at least have a general idea based on the data you've gathered. If you want to learn how I do this, you may want to consider joining my program and working with me directly, where I can break down my thought process with you on a one-on-one basis. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely leave a like, comment below what your thoughts are on this matter, and subscribe if you wish to see more. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at EkataTrading on Telegram, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. We will definitely be doing more like this in the future. See you in the next one.